Our family entertainment budget suddenly went to a private site. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was late April, and I was settling in on the couch after a long day, scrolling through my bank statement when I saw it. A recurring charge for PrivateLens Exclusive. My heart sank. I never signed up for anything like that. I tapped the transaction ID and saw the date, 2 days ago. I should have been at work, filing expense reports, not sneaking around online, but something told me I couldn't ignore it. I opened a new tab, typed the URL, PrivateLens.com, and paused. Of course, the site was gated, hidden behind a paywall. My chest tightened as I logged in with credentials I'd never created. Somehow the thieves had used my debit card, my email. The homepage greeted me with a rotating carousel of thumbnails, dimly lit living rooms, silhouettes on beds, phone screens, flickering video play icons. And then, there it was, a clip titled Daniel and Emily, April 20 worse. My name and hers. I hesitated, then clicked. The video loaded, pixelated at first, then sharpened into the familiar patterns of our bedroom, my side of the bed, the lamp Emily and I bought on our honeymoon, the framed prints on the wall. I watched, paralyzed, as the footage revealed the unmistakable outlines of 2 bodies. At first I thought it was some glitchy scam, someone's stock footage, but the tattoos on my right shoulder, the scar by my hairline, it was unmistakably me. And then Emily's voice, clear and breathless, and a second voice, deeper, huskier. I closed the laptop and stared at the black screen. Hours passed in silence, the only sound my own ragged breathing. When I dared to reopen my browser, I saw more files. Kitchen confessions, late-night rendezvous, face hidden, shoes visible. Each clip tagged with timestamps, locations, my home, my life, turned into evidence against me, against us. I spent the next evening assembling everything. Screenshots, metadata, IP logs. I downloaded Tor, chained VPNs, scoured hidden forums where tech-savvy collectors traded footage like baseball cards. Someone had rigged a camera in our bedroom light fixture. Someone who knew exactly when Emily and I were vulnerable. My mind raced. Was it a stalker? A friend? A jealous coworker? As midnight approached, I found a thread where someone had posted a link to a Dropbox with a folder named Emily Daniel Reel. Inside, dozens of videos captured over weeks. Our anniversaries, lazy Sundays, intimate moments I never intended to share. I felt fury, betrayal, disbelief, but above all, I felt the overwhelming need to confront whatever or whoever was behind it. I gathered the evidence, packed it into encrypted archives, and prepared myself for the final step. But as the screen glowed in the darkness, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The moment I hit send on the encrypted archive to myself, my phone buzzed. A Slack notification from Emily's team at the marketing firm. She'd left her computer unlocked, and I'd managed to see her recent messages. A mix of mundane project chatter and one thread labeled, late hours, urgent. My pulse spiked. The thread was between her and someone named Alex Monroe. I hesitated only a second before clicking into their DMs. There it was. Photos of us in bed, annotated with timestamps and comments I couldn't bear to read. Alex had been the one feeding those clips to the site. He'd set up the hidden camera behind the headboard. I closed the window, my hands trembling. Alex was the guy she'd bragged about over coffee, the one she called brilliant and driven. I should have smelled something off when she started staying late in the office, claiming extra hours on the Henderson account. But I'd trusted her. I'd loved her. I spent the next 2 nights tracing Alex's online footprint, a GitHub profile, a decade-old Facebook page, a Twitter feed full of cryptic posts about collecting human stories and preserving intimate moments. Beneath one tweet, he'd replied to a tech influencer, "Privacy is overrated. People crave exposure." My stomach churned. I printed screenshots, cross-checked IP addresses from my bank statement against the server logs I'd scraped. Everything pointed to his apartment a few blocks away. By Friday, I had a plan. I created a fake profile on PrivateLens, paid for the VIP tier, uploaded a staged lost video of us in a coffee shop we frequent. I knew Alex would bite. He'd claim credit, and he did. He messaged within minutes. "Nice work. Looks like you're getting the hang of this. See you tonight?" I set up a meeting at a 24-hour diner at 11:30. I wore a dark hoodie, my phone hidden in my pocket, filming everything. When Alex arrived, he was all charm, leaning back in the booth, sipping black coffee, casually asking about new material. I slid my encrypted folder across the table. "You've been busy," I said softly. His smile faded. I watched as recognition and panic flitted across his face. He reached into his jacket, and for a terrifying second, I thought he'd pull a gun. Instead, he extracted a small USB stick. "You don't understand," he stammered. "I'm an artist. I capture raw emotion. Emily, she wanted this." I leaned forward. "You think betraying me, betraying her is art?" My voice was quiet but deadly calm. He swallowed. I thought she was okay with it. Just then, my phone in my pocket buzzed again. A live upload alert from PrivateLens. A new clip, Daniel and Alex confrontation. I glanced at Alex's face, now drained, and realized this fight was far from over. Continuous recording, encryption, leverage, everything had changed. And I still hadn't faced Emily. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Alex's confession hung between us like smoke. He looked smaller now, slumped in the vinyl booth, guilt coiled in his eyes. I tucked my phone away, my backup recording, and studied his shaking hands around the coffee mug. "She never agreed to this," I said. "She told you yes? How could you believe that?" He swallowed hard. She envied my camera work. She admired how I framed people. I thought she wanted to explore something new." His voice cracked. I thought she was consenting. I wanted to punch him, knock the smug smirk off his face forever. Instead, I leaned back and exhaled, trying to steady my thoughts. "Do you even care what you did to us?" He flinched, and in that moment I saw his fear. Afraid of legal consequences, afraid of my anger, afraid of losing whatever twisted power he felt he wielded. I slid the USB drive back to him. "Keep it. You deserve your own evidence. You'll need it." He stared, baffled. I stood, my legs stiff from sitting. "I'm going to see her now." The streets were cold that night, May wind slicing through my hoodie as I walked 3 blocks toward our apartment. My chest ached, fear and anticipation battling inside me. Every lamppost cast long shadows, and I half expected Alex's face to flicker in the glass. I rehearsed my words. Calm, factual, without melodrama. I'd show her the proof, let her explain, let her choose what happened next. I didn't knock. I pressed the key fob and watched the lock click open. The hallway was dark and the silence felt surreal. Inside our living room, the evidence awaited. Videos scattered across my laptop screen, timestamps blinking like warnings. My pulse thundered as I called her name. Emily emerged from the bedroom doorway, hair tied back, eyes red-rimmed but wide. She saw the open laptop, the thumbnails of us, her pleasure and my pain laid bare. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Daniel." I held up my phone. "These are yours," I said gently. "Alex said you wanted this." Her breath hitched. I didn't know he was filming. I thought it was just between us. Tears streamed as she sank to the couch, head in her hands. The apartment smelled of lavender and regret. I sat beside her but kept my distance. "We need to talk," I whispered. "No secrets this time." And in the hush of that almost empty apartment, everything shifted. The foundation of trust we'd built for years had cracked. But maybe, just maybe, it could be repaired. Or perhaps it was time to burn it all down and start over. I found myself pacing the living room long after Emily fell asleep on the couch, her quiet sobs turning into soft, uneven breaths. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment since that first bank alert. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind an ache deeper than anything I'd felt before. Betrayal cut both ways, Alex for his twisted art, and Emily for letting herself be so careless. But I also wondered how much of it was my fault. The long hours at the office, the half-listened reassurances, the nights I pretended everything was fine when I was really hiding spreadsheets and client calls. Morning came with a dull gray light filtering through the blinds. Emily woke with puffy eyes and sat across from me at the small kitchen table, spooning cereal as if it could numb the memory of us in pixels. I poured 2 coffees, black for her, milk and honey for me, the way she liked it on days she was most anxious. We didn't speak for a long time, and the only sound was the drip from the filter and the tick of the wall clock. "I've scheduled a meeting with a lawyer," I finally said, sliding my cup forward. Her hand froze midair. "We need to protect ourselves, and if we're going to salvage this..." I trailed off. She covered her mouth, tears threatening again. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I never meant to." She stopped, choking on the apology, and I closed my eyes. I remembered our wedding vows, the promise to be honest, to honor each other. Those words felt both sacred and naive now. but beneath the shards of trust, part of me still loved her. That small, stubborn spark wouldn't die. I reached across and took her hand. It trembled under my grip. "We'll figure this out," I said, though the uncertainty loomed large. "But first, we take inventory. I'm going to contact the bank, the police, anyone who can help us stop Alex from selling more footage. Then we decide where we go from here." Emily nodded, wiping a tear. "I'll talk to HR at the firm. If he's done this to us, he could do it to anyone." We spent the rest of the morning drafting emails, making calls, and building a case. It felt strangely empowering to fight back, to reclaim our narrative. At one point, Emily paused and looked at me with a shaky but honest smile. "Thank you for not leaving." I managed a small grin. "We've been through worse," I said, though neither of us believed it yet. Still, as I watched her lean over the laptop typing with renewed purpose, I realized this wasn't just about punishment or legal settlements. It was about finding a way back to each other, or at least finding the courage to let go. And in that quiet kitchen, with the morning light and 2 half-empty mugs, I felt the first real possibility of a tomorrow we might choose on our own terms. By midweek, our living room had become mission control. Stacks of printed email chains lay on the coffee table alongside a spiral notebook where I'd penciled timelines. April 15th, Emily's late-night work on Henderson account. April 21st, first PrivateLens clip. April 25th, Alex's Dropbox folder. Each line felt like a stab. We took turns calling our bank's fraud department, filing the unauthorized charges report, then dialing the non-emergency police line to speak with a detective specialized in cybercrimes. Detective Marshall arrived on Thursday, tall and worn, with a laptop bag slung over one shoulder. His eyes were soft but sharp. He listened as Emily described how she'd met Alex at that industry conference 6 months ago, how his portfolio's cinematic framing had impressed her, how she'd innocently agreed to experiment with a camera he offered to set up. Then he listened to me recount the descent into surveillance horror, how I'd uncovered the paywall subscription, the hidden camera in our light fixture, the endless parade of clips of our private life. "I'll need you both to give sworn statements," he said, flipping open his notebook. "And any digital logs you have. IP addresses, VPN details, timestamps. The more evidence, the stronger our case." He paused. "We'll issue a subpoena to PrivateLens and Dropbox. I'll contact the site's registrar here in the States." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a glimmer of relief. We weren't alone. As Marshall left, he tapped his pen against his chin. "One more thing. Consider counseling, both legal and emotional. Cyberstalking can wreck more than your privacy." That weekend, Emily and I sat in our therapist's sunlit office. Walls painted a calming teal, soft pillows on the couch. Dr. Reyes had us use a timeline diagram on a big sheet of paper to chart our trust fractures. I drew jagged red lines for each hidden video upload. Emily added blue circles for moments she regretted not telling me about Alex's side projects. When she apologetically traced her finger along the April 24th mark, her voice cracked. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. Through the therapy sessions, I began to understand. Emily had been seeking validation, recognition of her creativity, something I'd unknowingly neglected as I chased quarterly targets. It wasn't justification for betrayal, but a context I couldn't ignore. I admitted my own failings, the long hours, the distracted nods when she needed real attention. By Sunday evening, we drafted our joint victim impact statement, detailing emotional harm, loss of intimacy, financial risk. We polished it together, line by line, agreeing on wording that wouldn't tear open old wounds, but would convey our pain. While we worked, silence felt less like a void and more like shared space, a sign we were still a team. Late that night, after scanning the signed documents, I looked at Emily across the desk. No grand declarations, just a tired but genuine smile. "Thank you for fighting this with me." She reached out, placing her hand over mine. The ring felt heavier now, carrying both the weight of betrayal and the hope of renewal. And in that quiet moment, I realized our story wasn't over. It was evolving. We had each other's backs again, ready to face whatever came next, together. The day the subpoena arrived at Alex's door felt surreal, like watching the final act of a drama I'd been trapped in for weeks. Detective Marshall called that morning to say Alex had surrendered himself and all the evidence. Camera equipment, hard drives, a confession letter. He'd waived arraignment, asking only for a plea hearing. He's terrified, Daniel, the detective said quietly. But at least he's cooperating. Standing outside the courthouse, I tightened my grip on Emily's hand. The building's limestone facade gleamed in the May sun, but to me it looked cold and unyielding. We stepped inside, passing statues of blindfolded justice and marble columns that seemed to watch our every move. Emily's eyes were fixed on the floor. I could feel her heartbeat against my palm. Together we found seats in the back row of the courtroom. Laptops and folders stacked on the bench before us, our joint statement, bank statements, printouts of every PrivateLens clip. When Alex was led in, shoulders hunched beneath the orange jumpsuit, he glanced our way for the briefest moment. His eyes met mine, and I saw the man who once laughed at my jokes, who'd charmed his way into Emily's confidence. Now he looked hollow, stripped of bravado. The judge called the hearing to order, and Alex's attorney stood, citing remorse, the absence of prior offenses, and a promise to enroll in a rehabilitation program for digital offenders. The prosecutor outlined the charges: unauthorized surveillance, distribution of private images, wire fraud. Each accusation landed like a gavel strike. As they spoke, I watched Emily uncoil, her posture straightening, her eyes clear. I realized she'd gained strength from facing each step in this process, reporting the crime, testifying to her confusion, reclaiming her voice. The judge paused, then accepted Alex's plea. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing was set for next week, with potential prison time, restitution, and lifetime restrictions on technology use. Outside, the sun was brighter. We walked slowly along the courtyard, the wind carrying the scent of blooming magnolias. Emily slipped her hand into mine. I feel relieved, she admitted. Not happy, but relieved that it's over. I guided her toward a bench beneath a flowering cherry tree. It's not over, I said softly. We still have us to figure out. She nodded, and for the first time I didn't feel the weight of uncertainty pressing on my chest. Instead, there was a cautious optimism, like stepping onto a road whose destination was unknown, but whose journey we chose together. That evening, back in our apartment, I cleared space on the coffee table and placed Alex's discarded evidence bag at one end. Inside were the twisted remnants of our invasion: tiny lenses, tangled wires, encrypted hard drives. My hand trembled as I lifted the highest resolution camera, turning it over like a relic. Then I set it down firmly. Emily joined me, leaning against my shoulder. We watched the sunset paint the sky in bruised purples and golds. No cameras, no secrets, just us. I slipped my arm around her and whispered, "Let's start fresh." She closed her eyes, resting her head against my chest. And in that moment, the darkness of what we'd endured gave way to something fragile and bright. The promise of rebuilding trust, of telling new stories on our own terms, with nothing hidden behind a lens.